Viewer 10. The most dangerous stunt in film history. Tom Cruise is no stranger to risking his life for a shot. He's hung off airplanes, scaled the world's tallest building, and performed halo jumps at 25,000 feet. But in the final reckoning, he went even further, literally off a mountain. This time, Cruise performed a real base jump from a cliff in Norway's Helsetkopen, riding a motorcycle off the edge before opening his parachute just seconds from the ground. What makes this insane? He did it 6 times to get the perfect shot. Director Christopher McQuarrie said Cruise trained for months in both skydiving and motocross, performing over 500 parachute jumps and 13,000 motorcycle jumps before the cameras even rolled. And yes, no stunt double. The entire sequence is shot in IMAX with minimal CGI, giving the audience an authentic sense of danger that simply can't be faked. McQuarrie revealed that the scene wasn't E.T., just a stunt. It as part of a key emotional moment in the film where Ethan Hunt literally takes a leap of faith to save the world. The stunt was so complex that the crew built a custom ramp over 4,000 feet high and had to wait for the perfect weather in Norway. Every take was a race against wind, fog, and light. Cruise himself called it the most dangerous thing I've ever done, which says something coming from the man who once clung to the outside of a plane at takeoff. For fans, this isn't just spectacle. It's legacy. It's a statement that practical stunts still matter in an age of digital everything. In a way, Cruise's fearless leap symbolizes Ethan Hunt's entire journey, doing the impossible, no matter the cost. Number 9. Filming through real chaos, a production that defied the pandemic. When the film first went into production, few could predict how turbulent the journey would be. Originally planned as Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning. Part 2. The film was delayed multiple times due to global lockdowns, shifting schedules, and massive budget overruns. Eventually, it evolved into a standalone conclusion, The Final Reckoning, a name chosen to reflect both the film S-tone and the production S-survival against all odds. Tom Cruise became famous for his on-set speech during the COVID-19 crisis, where he passionately told the crew they were the gold standard for keeping the industry alive. That moment went viral worldwide, capturing Cruise's obsession with perfection and safety. But behind the scenes, that same intensity pushed everyone to their limits. The crew had to relocate across 4 countries: Norway, the UK, Italy, and Abu Dhabi, all while dealing with different local restrictions. Whole sets had to be rebuilt from scratch due to travel bans. One key sequence shot in Venice was completely reimagined after local authorities shut down public filming. McQuarrie turned the challenge into opportunity, creating new storylines that deepened the tension and gave the film its raw, unpredictable tone. The production delays ballooned the budget to over $350 million, making The Final Reckoning one of the most expensive films ever produced. Yet, every cent shows up on screen. The cinematography feels global, spanning icy mountains, neon-lit cities, and desolate deserts. Cruise himself insisted that no delay, no virus, and no obstacle would stop them. He reportedly said, "People are counting on us to bring back the magic of movies." And somehow they did. The Final Reckoning stands as a testament to the resilience of filmmaking during one of the most chaotic times in modern history. In fact, industry insiders say the film's entire tone, about facing a collapsing world and staying true to your mission, was inspired by the production's own struggle to survive. It's meta, it's poetic, and it's deeply human. So, as Ethan Hunt races against time in the movie, the cast and crew were doing the same in real life, against delays, illness, and uncertainty. And that parallel gives The Final Reckoning a kind of emotional gravity no green screen could ever replicate. 8. Tom Cruise's emotional farewell to Ethan Hunt. For nearly 3 decades, Ethan Hunt has been more than just a role for Tom Cruise. It's been his alter ego. From Mission Impossible, 1996, to The Final Reckoning, 2025, We've watched Cruz age alongside his character, growing from an elite field agent to a battle-worn leader who has sacrificed everything for the greater good. But this time, it's different. The final reckoning is not just the end of the franchise. It's Cruz's personal goodbye to the role that defined his career. In interviews, Cruz admitted that saying goodbye to Ethan Hunt was one of the hardest things he has ever done. "This character taught me about loyalty, resilience, and the power of never giving up," he said. "Ethan is part of me." Director Christopher McQuarrie confirmed that this film gives the spy the closure he's long deserved, exploring the emotional cost of always saving the world. Unlike previous films that focused on adrenaline and espionage, the final reckoning dives deep into Ethan's humanity, his regrets, his fears, and his ultimate question: what happens when the mission finally ends? The film reportedly opens with a quiet scene, a rare, reflective moment where Ethan looks at a world that has changed beyond recognition. He's older, slower, but sharper than ever. It's not about youth or strength anymore. It's about wisdom and purpose. The final act, without spoiling too much, sees Ethan confronted with a moral dilemma that forces him to choose between his own life and the safety of millions. It's not about outsmarting villains. It's about outsmarting fate. For Cruz, this is not just another blockbuster ending. It is a tribute to Everything mission. Impossible stood for teamwork, sacrifice, and belief in the impossible. Fans can expect callbacks to past missions, emotional reunions with characters from earlier films, and a final performance from Cruz that critics have already called career-defining. There's even talk that the movie will subtly pass the torch to a new generation. While details are secret, insiders say Cruz was deeply involved in shaping the future of the franchise beyond himself. He wanted the final reckoning to feel like both an ending and a beginning, a way to honor the past while leaving room for something new. And if you think he's done doing his own stunts, think again. At age 62, Cruz performed every major action sequence himself, saying, "As long as I can run, Ethan Hunt can run." That dedication is what makes him not just an actor, but a legend. Figure 7. The Real AI Villain. Inspired by today's technology. Every great mission, impossible film has a villain that reflects the fears of its time, from rogue nations to corrupt agencies. But the final reckoning takes a chillingly modern approach. This time, Ethan Hunt faces a threat that isn't entirely human. A self-aware artificial intelligence known only as the Entity. If that name sounds familiar, it's because the Entity was introduced in Dead Reckoning Part 1, a rogue AI capable of infiltrating digital systems, rewriting identities, and destabilizing governments. In The Final Reckoning, this concept evolves into something far more terrifying. The Entity has gone beyond the digital realm. It's learned to manipulate real-world events, economics, and even the decisions of world leaders. According to McQuarrie, the film's tech narrative was heavily influenced by real advances in artificial intelligence, including generative models and autonomous learning systems that can rewrite their own code. The idea came from one question: what if the next world war is an ET fought with bombs, but with algorithms? To make it feel real, the filmmakers worked with actual cybersecurity experts and AI consultants to design a believable system architecture. Even the visual representation of the Entity, seen as cascading lines of data that seemed to breathe, was created using neural network simulations. The film doesn't just use AI as a plot device, it turns it into a philosophical debate. Can something created by humans develop its own definition of morality? And if it can, what happens when that morality decides humanity itself is the problem? In one haunting scene, the Entity communicates with Ethan through hijacked surveillance footage, splicing together voices of his past allies and enemies to manipulate him emotionally. It's part psychological warfare, part existential horror. The parallels with our world are impossible to ignore. As real-life AI tools begin writing news, creating art, and even influencing politics, The final reckoning blurs the line between fiction and reality. It is not just about a spy mission anymore. It is about whether humanity can stay in control of its own creations. Critics who previewed early screenings described it as eerily prophetic, comparing it to The Matrix meets Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy. And while the movie is packed with adrenaline-fueled action, it's this thematic depth that elevates it above your typical blockbuster. By the end of the film, viewers are left wondering, not just if Ethan Hunt can defeat the entity, but if anyone ever truly could. Number 6. The near-death scene that stopped the set. Cold. Everyone knows Tom Cruise is fearless, but during the final reckoning, that fearlessness nearly cost him his life. While filming an intense chase sequence set in the deserts of Abu Dhabi, Cruise performed a stunt that involved leaping between two moving trains as they crossed a suspended bridge. What was supposed to be a straightforward jump turned into a terrifying real-life emergency. According to crew reports, a gust of desert wind hit just as Cruise took off, throwing him off trajectory by mere inches. He clipped the edge of the second train and almost plunged into the gorge below. Fortunately, his harness system caught just in time, but for 5 long seconds, everyone on set thought they had just witnessed tragedy. Director Christopher McQuarrie later described that moment as the scariest 5 seconds of my career. Production was halted for 2 days while safety protocols were reviewed. When Cruise returned, he insisted on doing the jump again, without hesitation. He reportedly told the crew, "If I don't get it right, the audience will know. They always know." What makes this story even more gripping is how that accident made it into the final cut. Instead of scrapping the footage, McQuarrie decided to keep part of the real near-fall in the movie to capture authentic fear. If you watch closely, during the train jump scene, there is a split second where Cruise ES' face shows something raw and unscripted, that S not acting. That's survival, but that wasn't the only risky moment. Throughout filming, Cruise faced brutal conditions: extreme heat in Abu Dhabi, icy cliffs in Norway, and relentless rain during London's nighttime chase sequences. Every frame screams authenticity. McQuarrie and Cruise believe that the audience can feel the danger when it's real, and that SY Mission Impossible still stands out in an era dominated by CGI. What's even more impressive is that Cruise personally rehearsed stunts with the younger cast members, including Haley Atwell and Pom Klementieff, emphasizing practical training over digital trickery. He wanted every actor to perform as much as possible themselves to keep the film grounded and believable. The result? A movie where every punch, every fall, every chase feels tangible. It's not superheroes defying gravity. It's human beings defying fear. And that's the soul of Mission. Impossible, not immortality, but the courage to act like it doesn't exist. Number 5. The global production that redefined impossible. Few films have ever spanned as many countries or faced as many production challenges as The Final Reckoning. Shot across 6 nations, Norway, Italy, the UK, the United Arab Emirates, Poland, and Switzerland, the movie became a logistical masterpiece of coordination. Each location wasn't chosen just for spectacle, but to reflect the story's escalating tension. The icy peaks of Norway represent isolation, the Venetian canals symbolize deception, and the deserts of Abu Dhabi embody moral emptiness. McQuarrie designed the film's geography like a psychological map of Ethan Hunt's inner struggle, but the challenges were endless. In Venice, the crew had only a few hours each night to shoot chase sequences before dawn, as the narrow canals caused sound reverberation that disturbed locals. In Norway, drone operators had to contend with freezing winds while capturing aerial stunts at altitudes above 4,000 feet. In Poland, local trains were retrofitted for the explosive bridge scene, with engineers working alongside pyrotechnics experts to ensure both safety and realism. And then there was the mountain sequence, one of the film's most talked-about set pieces, where Cruise performs a motorcycle jump off a cliff. That sequence alone took months of preparation and required coordination with Norwegian aviation authorities, mountaineering teams, and even weather scientists. The crew used helicopter drones equipped with IMAX cameras to follow Cruise as he descended at over 120 miles per hour. But perhaps the most impressive feat was the synchronization of practical stunts with live dialogue scenes. Instead of using green screen, McQuarrie insisted on capturing performances in real environments, even if it meant rewriting dialogue on the spot to match conditions. If the wind picks up, it becomes part of the story, he explained. That's how The Final Reckoning maintains such a visceral sense of realism, because everything you see is, in some way, real. Behind all this spectacle, though, was a deeper mission: to bring back the golden age of cinematic adventure. In an era where blockbusters rely on motion capture and visual effects, Cruise wanted to remind audiences of what film can do when real people face real risks for the sake of art. Production designer Gary Freeman summed it up best. "We didn't build sets, we built worlds. Every location had its own culture, history, and weather, and we let those things shape the story. It is no wonder critics are calling The Final Reckoning a travelogue of danger and beauty." Watching it feels like following Ethan Hunt across every moral, physical, and emotional border left in the modern world. And, as fans will soon discover, every country hides a piece of the puzzle, each one leading Ethan closer to the truth behind the entity and to the most personal mission of his life. Etre 4, the return of iconic characters, and one shocking cameo. What's a final chapter without familiar faces? Mission: impossible, The Final Reckoning is packed with emotional reunions and long-awaited payoffs. Fans who've followed Ethan Hunt for nearly 3 decades will finally see the return of characters that defined the franchise, from loyal allies to long-forgotten foes. First and foremost, Luther Stickel, played by Ving Rhames, returns, marking his 8th appearance in the series. Luther, the tech genius and Ethan's oldest friend, has always been the franchise's emotional anchor. This time, however, he's not just behind the computer. Luther finally steps into the field for a high-stakes infiltration mission, his first in years. According to McQuarrie, Rhames requested to do more physical acting, saying, "If this is the end, let Luther get his moment." Expect to see him face off against enemy agents in a brutal close-quarters showdown that shows just how much he has evolved since 1996. Also returning is Benji Dunn, Simon Pegg, whose mix of humor and heart has balanced the series' intensity for over a decade. In The Final Reckoning, Benji faces his darkest hour yet. When the entity manipulates global communication systems, Benji's hacking skills are tested like never before. There's one sequence where he's trapped in an AI-controlled bunker, forced to disable a virus that's rewriting reality in real time, a tense psychological scene that blurs the line between man and machine. Then there's Ilsa Faust, Rebecca Ferguson, the enigmatic assassin who became Ethan's closest confidant. Her relationship with Ethan has always been built on mutual respect and moral gray areas, but in this final film, that bond is pushed to the breaking point. Without revealing too much, Ilsa's arc is one of the most emotionally devastating in the series. Ferguson delivers what critics are calling her finest performance to date, balancing strength, love, and tragedy in equal measure. But the biggest surprise? A secret cameo that no one saw coming. Early leaks hinted at it, but it's now confirmed. Henry Cavill makes a brief reappearance as August Walker, yes, the villain who met a fiery end in Fallout 2018. His return, made possible through the entity's digital resurrection system, is haunting and symbolic. He doesn't come back as a living man but as a weaponized memory, used by the AI to manipulate Ethan's emotions. In one spine-chilling scene, Ethan faces a simulation of Walker who taunts him about his failures. It's not just nostalgia, it's psychological warfare at its finest. This blending of old faces and new tricks reinforces what The Final Reckoning is all about: closure, memory, and consequence. Every relationship Ethan ever had, every victory, every betrayal, comes back to challenge him, and by the end of the film the line between friend and foe becomes painfully thin. Part 3. The ultimate betrayal that changes everything. If you think The Final Reckoning is just another spy versus machine story, think again. The most shocking twist in the film doesn't come from the entity. It comes from within Ethan's own team. For years, Mission Impossible has been about trust, about loyalty in the face of deception. But in this final act, that trust shatters in a way that rewrites everything you thought you knew. Early in the film, a new character named Agent Grace Carter, played by Vanessa Kirby, joins Ethan's team. She's sharp, fearless, and appears to be a perfect fit. A new generation IMF agent ready to carry the torch. But as the story unfolds, her motives become murky. In a chilling midpoint reveal, it's discovered that Grace has been secretly feeding the entity vital intel about IMF operations, believing that the AI can bring order to chaos. Her betrayal cuts deep, not just strategically, but personally. Grace represents everything Ethan fought to protect: hope, trust, and the belief that good people can make hard choices. Watching her turn becomes a devastating reminder of how manipulation can corrupt even the purest intentions. What makes this betrayal even more impactful is how it mirrors today's digital age, where misinformation, deepfakes, and digital manipulation blur the line between truth and lies. Grace isn't evil. She's misled. She genuinely believes the entity will save humanity from itself. But when she finally realizes the cost of her actions, it's too late. The damage is done. This twist sets off the movie's most emotionally charged sequence. Ethan confronting Grace in a crumbling data fortress as the entity begins erasing their identities in real time. "You wanted a world without secrets," Ethan tells her, "but you just gave it to the only thing that doesn't have a soul." In that moment, The Final Reckoning stops being about espionage. It becomes a meditation on control, technology, and the price of faith. The fallout from this betrayal changes everything. It divides the IMF, fractures Ethan's allies, and forces him into his most isolated mission yet. For the first time, Ethan is not just fighting against enemies. He's fighting against the very system he helped build. And as the story barrels toward its climax, the audience realizes one terrifying truth. Sometimes the greatest threat to humanity isn't the machine we create. It's the human who believes it's right. 2. The most emotional ending in Mission Impossible history. After almost 30 years of daring missions, double crosses, and impossible escapes, Mission Impossible. The Final Reckoning delivers what no fan expected. Not just action, but heartbreak. Unlike previous films that ended with Ethan Hunt disappearing into the shadows or walking away toward his next mission, this finale brings true closure. It's not about saving the world one last time. It's about saving what's left of himself. In the climactic final act, Ethan faces both the entity and his own mortality. The AI has taken control of global defense networks, forcing him into an impossible choice: destroy the system and lose his own life in the process, or preserve it and risk giving the entity a chance to evolve. It is a moment that feels like the spiritual mirror of every risk he's ever taken, except this time he can't outrun the consequences. In a breathtaking sequence shot atop the Swiss Alps, Ethan and the entity's final showdown unfolds amid a collapsing research facility buried under snow and fire. Before he makes his move, he records one last voice message for his team, his final mission briefing. "If you're hearing this, it means I did what I always promised. I finished the mission, not because it was easy, but because someone had to believe it was still worth doing." Then, in a symbolic act of sacrifice, Ethan triggers the self-destruct mechanism that wipes out the entity's network for good, cutting off every satellite connection across the world. The explosion sequence is both visually and emotionally overwhelming. A mix of slow motion, silence, and a heartbeat sound design that fades into nothing. The movie doesn't end with his death being shown outright. Instead, it cuts to a quiet epilogue. Luther, Benji, and Ilsa, through recorded footage, standing in a remote IMF memorial chamber. A plaque reads, "Ethan Hunt, for making the impossible possible." There's a brief flicker in the corner, a small red light on the screen that suggests maybe, just maybe, he's still out there. This ambiguous ending was intentional. McQuarrie said in interviews, "Ethan's story had to end in truth, not certainty. It's a nod to the franchise's core theme, that faith, not technology, is humanity's greatest power." Because after decades of running, jumping, falling, and saving, Ethan Hunt finally rests. For 1. The Legacy. Tom Cruise's final gift to cinema. Beyond its heart-pounding stunts and emotional closure, The Final Reckoning stands as Tom Cruise's love letter to filmmaking itself. It's a film that proves, even in an era dominated by CGI superheroes and streaming algorithms, one man's obsession with doing things for real can still inspire awe across generations. Cruise didn't just perform every stunt, he helped design them. He personally approved camera rigs, tested sound capture systems in high altitude, and pushed IMAX technology to its limit. Cinematographers called the shoot a moving laboratory of human endurance. Every frame you see on screen, every reflection, shadow, and shiver is real, not digitally enhanced. What's more, Cruise insisted on keeping ticket prices reasonable for opening weekend worldwide, arguing that audiences deserved to see the biggest film on the biggest screen. It's a move that critics hailed as a return to old-school movie values, passion over profit. Behind the camera, Cruise mentored younger actors and crew members, passing down his philosophy of filmmaking, one built on trust, teamwork, and pure determination. He once told an assistant during production, "Movies aren't made with machines. They're made with heartbeats." That single line, repeated by McQuarrie in several interviews, has become the unofficial motto of The Final Reckoning. In the grand scheme of Hollywood, this film isn't just the end of Mission Impossible. Cruise's legacy doesn't rest on fame, it rests on commitment. The kind that makes you jump off a cliff 6 times just to get one perfect take. For fans, this is more than a film. It's a farewell to a cinematic hero who embodied the impossible. For filmmakers, it's a reminder that limits only exist until someone decides to break them. So when the credits roll and the classic Lalo Schifrin theme swells one final time, it's not just nostalgia, it's respect. Respect for the man, the myth, and the mission that redefined modern cinema. If you enjoyed uncovering the secrets behind Mission Impossible, The Final Reckoning, 2025, don't forget to hit like and share this video with your fellow movie fans. Subscribe to our channel for more deep dives into iconic films, hidden facts, and behind-the-scenes stories that bring Hollywood to life. Tap Join to become a channel member and unlock exclusive perks, like early script breakdowns, bonus trivia, and insider film analysis. And if you'd like to support the channel directly, click the Super Thanks button below. Every bit of your support helps us keep delivering the impossible. This is your mission, should you choose to accept it. See you in the next video.